Good morning and welcome into Morning JOX here on your Thursday morning. Conrad Van Order, Damian Mitchell with you here for the next hour as we get you set for McElroy and Kublik in the morning and get you ready for another weekend of college football. We had some series end on the diamond last night as a few sweeps in the wild card round of the MLB postseason. One series featuring a team from the National League East will be going to a deciding Game 3. Unfortunately, that game will feature the New York Mets, not the Atlanta Braves, as the Atlanta Braves did fall last night to the San Diego Padres. They gave it a good run, Damian.
They did.
Michael Harris had a 2-run home run in the 8th inning, made it 5-4, but the Padres ultimately able to shut the door on the Atlanta Braves. So all you Braves fans out there, sorry to hear that, but if you're a Braves fan, I wouldn't have said this a couple days ago, but I guess today we can say I hope you're also an Auburn fan because you got some good news yesterday if you're an Auburn fan in the commitment of one Deuce Knight, who we had been, Don Don's favorite player. We've been hearing about this kid for a long time, committed to Notre Dame, made a bunch of visits to Auburn. I feel like he's been down there about every weekend of this season so far, and they do ultimately get him to flip. And again, as we say, anytime we talk about recruiting, great get.
Yeah, it is.
Let's wait until they sign the papers.
Exactly.
Because that's the way that recruiting works now, but certainly good sign for Auburn that they're able to flip him. A big commitment there for Hugh Freeze. And don't look now, but according to 247, Auburn is the third best recruiting class in the country.
What? Okay, they're trending upward. So things are getting better. Or should be better.
They should be. If you can keep this class together, you're right now Ohio State is 1, Alabama is 2, and Auburn, you are 3.
There we go.
That's pretty impressive.
It is. And I think, we'll talk about recruiting a little bit later on and as the season starts to wind down. But no, it's a good get for Auburn. Deuce Knight, big kid, tall kid, and he made the point that Hugh Freeze was the deciding factor because you look at the numbers that his quarterbacks put up. He said that was kind of like the go-to. Hugh Freeze is the quarterback whisperer. I get it. The quarterback, the system does fit well for a quarter. What Hugh Freeze runs, if operated the correct way, it's very beneficial if you're a quarterback. But a lot of
these aren't his guys, Damian.
Yeah,
he didn't recruit these guys.
No. He definitely brought in Peyton Thorne.
Yeah, but he didn't recruit him from high school, so it doesn't count.
Yeah, he got him after he was already established as a Big Ten quarterback. But yeah,
that was his last favor for Brian Harsin. There's like he left a note like inside one of the drawers in the desk there in the office. Just some parting advice.
Yeah, it is, and I do think this is great for Auburn fans as far as the recruiting prowess and everything that you can blame on Brian Harsin how he was not. I guess you say efficient or strong in the recruiting ranks, but Hugh Freeze has done a good job. He did get the Freeze 4 in there. Now, has that resulted into many things besides 2 and 3 record? But it ain't just them. It ain't just them.
No, I mean I think we can all agree that look, there are moments that look like freshmen, but they are they're heavily contributing to what you're doing on offense there. I mean, outside of Lambert Smith, Malcolm Simmons and Cam Coleman have been focal points offensively. I mean, you got Riddick leading the team in tackles last week as a true freshman on defense. Like I will say this. One of the things we talked about last year with Auburn in the recruiting class was, kind of jokingly, but it benefited them was, you could go to a lot of these kids and say, hey, if you watch this last year, you can see that there's probably an opportunity for you to get some playing time early on. And they've lived up to that. And so I think that does bode well for you recruiting in the future of kids that look and go, oh, okay, yeah, I think I could go there and probably play pretty quickly. Now, is that going to be the case for a quarterback? I don't know. I think that's a little bit of maybe a different kind of risk that you would be taking there, but we'll see how it transpires.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I look at it as, all right, this is a great get, but are you really expecting him to come in and be your your quarterback in 2025? Do you think that, it should be kind of a bridge guy in between? Maybe he's just not ready from the jump as a freshman. When you look at that quarterback room now, Peyton Thorne's going to be gone.
I'm assuming Holden will be gone.
Right. I'm in the same boat with that Holden's going to be gone, so it leaves you with Walker White and Hank Brown. Maybe Hank Brown is kind of that, I guess you'd say, in-between guy, that bridge guy. Maybe Deuce Knight just isn't ready right now. Now, if you look at his physique now, he's 6'4", about 215. He looks great. Lefty, a little bit different from what we've seen over the past couple of years. But I do think that if, everybody's going to be a little bit older, that freeze four is going to be older. And, you look defensively as well, that they're going to be young in some spots, but I think that they're trending upward because a lot of these guys are getting a lot of playing time as freshmen. But I don't know if it really sets the bar of adding more expectation when he does get there. Because, again, if he doesn't, he's a freshman, and he's going to be playing in the SEC. He's a freshman quarterback. And, again, we haven't seen him take one snap in college football yet. We've seen what he's been able to do at high school. And, of course, that means he flipped from Notre Dame. So, undoubtedly, they know that the talent is there. But do you expect him to step in 2025? And are we going to still have the same conversation that we had this year of, oh, yeah, this team is going to be 8-9 wins? And yet, the record doesn't necessarily reflect that. But I do think that this is a great get for the future in Auburn. And, again, we'll see in December, when he officially signs on the dotted line. That's the biggest thing. And that's why I'm very hesitant on recruiting, especially in season, because these kids can change their mind at any point. And we have players on rosters that change their mind after 3 games because they don't want to burn the red shirt and things like that. So just tread a little bit lightly, but this is definitely trending in the right direction if you're Hugh Freeze and Auburn.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely good news that you are the clear front runner right now and have the commitment from him. And Auburn has, from everything I can tell, they have kind of sent the house on this kid, and the sense of really making him seem to be a priority for this recruiting class. And so, I would be surprised personally. I think he will go to Auburn, but again, you never know in these situations. It will be interesting, like you were talking about, to see how, what Hugh Freeze's plan kind of is. Because we also don't know, what their conversations with Knight are, in the sense of, did you pull the, well, you can start immediately card in an effort to get him to commit? Or was it more of a, you're going to be able to compete for the job in year 1, but it's not a guarantee. And maybe we're going to bring somebody else in to compete for the job. Because that's really what, my biggest question mark is with this is, and maybe it depends on, what the NIL deal that you gave him is. But Are you going to go get a transfer quarterback now and bring in a guy that, look, if Deuce or Walker White or whoever is the best quarterback next year, that's great. But do you want to bring in a guy that, if those people don't develop quick enough and you feel like you need kind of another year for them to learn, do you have a guy that can come in and you can win football games with next year? Because I get we can all, I just don't think the fan base wants to have another, oh, well, just wait one more year and then this team's really going to be ready to break out. Because, how many years have you been hearing that now if you're an Auburn fan? And I think you need to be able to have you need to show progress next year. Even if you have this great recruiting class back-to-back years, you need to put a product on the field that inspires confidence, that makes people want to stick around. Because, again, okay, if you're Cam Coleman and you go, all right, so might have another year where we're kind of in limbo. We're trying to figure out things at quarterback. But if you stick around in 2 years, we could be really, really good with Deuce Knight and with you and Perry and Malcolm and all these young guys. Is that something they're willing to do? Are you willing to wait around and, potentially have another kind of wasted year where you're not being able to put up the numbers you want? And then you really are going to have one good year to showcase for the NFL and then hope you get drafted. So it's going to be an interesting decision for Hugh Freeze and to see where he goes with that moving forward. But at least for right now, if you're an Auburn fan, I think you're pretty happy.
Yeah. And I had this conversation with some Auburn fans over the past couple of days. And, I was kind of looking at the rest of the season, how it goes. And I asked them, I was like, okay, if you were to go under 500 this year, how imperative is it that Hugh Freeze right this ship next year? And they're like, well, if he doesn't at least get us to 8 next season, then you have to go. You have to let him go. And I was like, why would you let him go when you know he's actually bringing in the talent, but it's a results business? Because I find it difficult to believe, or I'm trying to understand that, all right, last year for Auburn, it was, all right, the quarterback was having issues, receivers were not good, offensive line was inconsistent, defense was inconsistent. And then you look at this season, it's turnovers and giving up big plays for a team that's more talented than it was last year, and the record is worse. And I can't quite just put my finger on it, because to me, if you get better talent and the results are still not there, then that's a representation of you're still not where you need to be. And how can you say it's trending forward or moving upward if your record doesn't say it? And like, I'm not going to sit here and, just put lipstick on the pig and say that, Auburn doesn't have the pieces that they have, because they do. But when you have these situations as far as turnovers and penalties and giving up big plays, like those are bad team qualities, no matter how you slice it up. Because to me, your record is what it is. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. Yes, we can say that Auburn could have been 5-0 at this point going into Georgia, but they're not. So we have to look at for what it is. And I think that's just hard for a lot of Auburn fans to process, because you came in with the season you came in with the season with such not necessarily high expectations, but you were not expecting to, in worst case scenario, nobody saw 2-3 before you take that first road trip to Georgia. And then when you look at the rest of the schedule, it's not like it's going to get any easier. And it's hard to say you're trending in the right direction if your record doesn't reflect that at the end of the season. So that's where I'm just, I don't know. I just go back and forth of, all right, is this just going to be a representation of Auburn's just going to be one year away? How many times can you say you're 1 year away? How many times can you say that you're a quarterback away? Because to me, we've been having the same conversations for pretty much a decade. Because after Nick Marshall, after Cam Newton, I even thought Jeremy Johnson was going to be just rinse and repeat. He's going to be the dude. He fits the Gus Malzahn system. He's going to be fine. Complete bust. And you have Sean White. Then you had the rotating door quarterbacks. Then you had Jarrett Stidham. Then you had Bo Nix. And it's, all right, how many more years can we sit here and have the conversation that Auburn's a quarterback away? And maybe Deuce Knight is going to be that guy as a freshman, but I don't want to put the cart before the horse and say, like, yeah, boom, straight off of talent, he's going to be the guy and they're going to roll with him. Because what if they find themselves in a situation like Florida this year where, all right, maybe Deuce isn't ready. Hank Brown is the starter, presumably so, in 2025. And he still looks like the Hank Brown of old. And it's, okay, what do we do if, Jarquez Hunter, I'm assuming, is going to be gone next. Well, he will be gone next year. And if the pieces still don't develop where they need to, where do we realistically see Hugh Freeze in this Auburn program moving forward?
And that's why I think if you're Hugh Freeze, you have to get a quarterback out of the portal. Because you have to give yourself kind of that safety net. Because worst case scenario, you could bring in a quarterback through the portal and they could turn out to be, one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC, and you got that thing rolling. But you need somebody who, at the very least, is just a capable starter that doesn't turn the football over. And I know that, that seems like such a basic ask, but I really think that you need to bring in a guy that you trust. Even truly, it can be a 1 year guy, somebody on the last year of their college eligibility, but somebody that can come in there and just bring stability to the quarterback position, to where even if next year maybe you're not where people were expecting you to be, but you can go out there and at the very least win 7-8 football games, go to a bowl game, and show that, okay, this thing is back on track. Because I think right now, Auburn's, in my opinion, not trending towards making a bowl game. And if that happens again next year, that's where you end up in the situation like you were talking about. I think Hugh Freeze has maybe a little bit longer leash than some fans maybe want him to have, I guess. Because, again, do you really want to get rid of a guy and then have to start all over again from recruiting and all of these things that have improved since Hugh Freeze got there? You're going to have to instill a whole new culture. You're going to have to install a whole new offense. You're going to have to start over recruiting-wise. You're going to lose all of these guys that you've brought in over the last 2 years to play
Mm-hmm.
for Hugh Freeze. I think they're going to give him more time than fans might expect. And you can also, and as frustrating as the turnovers are, I mean, we talked about it yesterday on Three Man Front. You know, you look at this Georgia game this weekend, and we went down through essentially every stat that these teams have going into the game. And Auburn's better statistically than Georgia in a lot of areas. And they're they're one of a top 25 offensive team in the country. And I understand that, you know, that's great, but it doesn't mean anything to Auburn fans when you're 2-3. But clearly there are things here that are working when
Mm-hmm.
they don't turn the ball over. And so I think that gives you confidence that this can be the right guy. It's just it hasn't gone as smoothly as you would like it to, but that doesn't mean that ultimately, in the long run it's not going to work out. It's just, you were hoping that it was going to start working out this year and it
Yep.
hasn't. And, if, we're in the same boat next year and Auburn's not looking like they're going to make a bowl game, then I think there's a more serious conversation to be had, but
Yeah.
I think for at least right now, he's going to get some leeway.
Yeah, absolutely. 205-834-9450. We see you on the text line. We see you on the phone line. We'll get your reaction from everything that happens with Deuce Knight signing with Auburn and giving the Auburn Tigers a jump in recruiting for 2025. If you want to just air your grievances for the Atlanta Braves. I know it's been a long season. You didn't get the finish that you wanted, but the fact that you even made it to the playoffs through with all the adversity that you had to overcome, it still was a great year. So we want to hear from you. Also take a look at some of the games for the weekend. Keep it locked right here on Morning JOX and JOX 94.5. 621 here on Morning JOX. JOX 94.5. Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order, and you as well. 205-834-9450. You can text or call in. We're taking a look at some games this weekend. Also getting some feedback from Auburn as they flip Deuce Knight, who was committed to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Hugh Freeze lands another five-star quarterback there for the class of 2025. We're kind of just looking at the 2025 season of, maybe if Deuce Knight is the guy, does Auburn go to the portal for another kind of bridge quarterback? Maybe if he isn't there, if Deuce isn't ready for QB1 status as soon as he get there. I've gotten some reaction on the JOX text line, and somebody texted in, he says, when are people going to realize Freeze may not be as good as the coach as they say? Think, yes, Auburn has put up some good numbers, but look at the caliber of talent, then they put them up on. Yeah, I get it. Antoine, he texted in, he says, I thought Hugh Freeze was a good hire for Auburn, but it seems his scheme is falling behind college football. He can't keep blaming previous coaching staffs for this year's failures. That I do agree with, because to me, with the transfer portal, you're able to change your roster year in and year out. Look at Colorado last season of, when Coach Prime takes over a 1-win team and he guts it. Like, he completely rearranges everything. So you have the ability nowadays in college football to completely revamp your roster year in and year out. And I like this text message. Somebody texted in and says, quarterback wouldn't be an issue if they just run the freaking ball with the beast in the backfield. I agree 100%. And I think that's what takes the load off of it. And somebody else brings up a great point. Wasn't Peyton Thorne supposed to be the experienced, steady quarterback that didn't turn the ball over?
Yes, that is a fair point.
That is true.
That is a fair point.
That is true. This is it. Tanner texted in and says, Deuce isn't going to start day one. He believes they're going to get Caden Salter from Liberty. He's going to transfer to Auburn, and Walker White and Hank Brown and Deuce all develop behind him, which I think would actually be a good thing to have.
Yeah, I agree with that. Caden Salter is really, really good. Again, it's just can he do what he does at Liberty in the SEC? I don't know, but he's certainly a very, very talented quarterback. And that's more so, I guess, the route that I think Auburn needs to go. And the fact of, because Peyton Thorne, while yes, he was a starting quarterback in the Big Ten, I don't think anybody was looking around college football and going, man, Peyton Thorne, like, he's one of those the best kept secrets at quarter.
Right.
That's the kind of guy that comes in and can turn it all around for you. I think the expectation was that he would be better than he has been. But you need to go out and get you need a dude.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you need. And that's going to cost some money. And I understand that's, maybe that's not going to be in the budget. I don't know. But I think you need to find a way to make money, because you need a guy at the quarterback position. You need somebody that's a dog that can come in there and take over.
Right. Patrick texts in. He says, don't y'all realize Hugh Freeze got Peyton Thorne out of the portal with an 11-2 record? Y'all keep acting like the portal means you're a great player. No, I don't necessarily think you're a great player. I don't think that you need to rush a freshman out there, because that can mess up everything for him moving forward. I just don't know I don't think that he's ready right now. And also, we've never seen him take a snap in college football. And for the expectations that Auburn puts on themselves as a program, if Hugh and Deuce don't work out in year one, Hugh's under more pressure than Deuce Knight is, because he's just a player. Like, he's just a freshman at that time.
He could go and transfer, do whatever he wants if Hugh Freeze leaves. Yeah.
So I just think that in my thinking, it's get somebody just to bridge in case. It may not even be the entire season. Maybe by week 5, you feel like, hey, the guy that we brought in from the transfer portal ain't really cutting it. We might as well take our ties with Deuce and the talent that he is. But again, who knows? Who knows?
I think that's a risk you have to take, right? Because if you do pay for a quarterback to come in and he doesn't play because one of the other guys is better, okay, maybe it stings a little bit that you paid NIL for a player that's not starting for you, but I think that's a risk you have to take, because, again, looking ahead going into next season, like, you would have likely 3 quarterbacks on the roster who had a combined 1 start against SEC competition, and it would be Hank Brown throwing 3 interceptions and getting pulled at halftime against Arkansas. Like, is that what you want to go into a season going, one of these guys is going to have to figure it out for us, or do you want to have the option of have another guy come in there and at the very least compete and push the other guys? And if it turns out that Deuce or Walker or Hank or whoever is the best option, then great, you have a quarterback. But if those guys don't develop or they need more time to develop, then you have a guy that can come in and, hopefully 7-8 wins next year.
Yeah. Somebody texted in, from Virginia. Thorne had a superior cast that year at Michigan State, and there wasn't the stress in the current system that he is, in that system that he is right now. And I think that's what my biggest, I guess you'd say, hesitation about Peyton Thorne when he even stepped foot onto Auburn was, all right, think of all the pieces that were there with him at Michigan State. You got to think, Keon Coleman hit the transfer portal the same time as Peyton Thorne, and Peyton Thorne was his quarterback, and he went to Florida State, and he was open saying that, I wasn't really rocking with the quarterback. Like, Peyton just wasn't my guy. And he gets down there with Jordan Travis, and he ends up being, a second-round draft pick. And also Kenneth Walker was there for
I was about to say, did you watch Monday Night Football the other night?
That was his running back when he was at Michigan State. That's where I was having the biggest issue with what Hugh Freeze has been doing the past 2 years was Peyton, either you're trying to fix Peyton Thorne or make him to something that he's just not. But if you make it to the point for your offense of let's just run the ball to open up everything else. And I know that he runs this RPO system, but to me, you should have straight up design runs. And I don't know. I just think it's.
Well, Michigan State, I don't think that, or at least that year with Kenneth Walker and Keon Coleman, they weren't asking Peyton Thorne to go out there and win them football games, right? He was a part of them winning football games. He had a good season, but it wasn't all right, big dog, we're all getting on your back and you're going to carry us to the promised land. It was, hey, you got a lot of dudes around you that are really good. Just give them the football and they'll kind of pave the way for us offensively. And now you're in a situation where, because of the offense that Hugh Freeze runs, you're asking Peyton Thorne to win you football games. Yep. And that's, he's obviously just not that kind of a quarterback. But to that point, you've got a really good receiver and you've got a really good running back, and we've seen what he can do in those kinds of offenses when it's not all put on him.
Yep. Let's go to the phone lines, 205-834-9450. Speaking of Auburn, we got Wardam Don on the phones this morning. What's going on, Don?
Hello, fellas. The deuce is loose.
Yeah, that's what they said in Tuscaloosa on Saturday.
Well, yeah, exactly. But and hey, props to that kid. Probably, I've been watching football for a long, long time, guys. About 3 times as long as y'all have. And this is the best 17-year-old kid I've ever seen in my life, okay?
Hey, he's a dog. He is a dog.
Props to that. And unfortunately, it goes back to Harsin before Freeze. If Harsin hadn't have blown it, that kid would be playing at Auburn today.
Anyway, but you can continue.
Yeah, okay. Well, all right. Well, yeah, you
if
don't
Bryce Young hadn't decommitted, then Bryce Carspec would have gone to Alabama. But
yeah, but everything you guys have said, I agree totally with you. You cannot not go get a transfer quarterback because these kids, they're not ready to play yet. Now, the question I got for y'all today is this: how many more losses do you think that Freeze would have to wait before he might even try Walker White this year?
I don't think he's going to be putting anybody else in. I think this is Peyton Thorne's ship for the rest of the year.
No matter how many more games we lose?
Nah. I just don't think you're going to wait. Like, I understand getting him experience could be beneficial, but are you really going to trot him out there so that you can go 5-7 instead of 4-8,
Well, no, but Conrad and Damien, just here's the question I got. And I think, like last year when Tennessee at the end of the year, we're not going to, look, I've done and concluded that we're not going to go to a bowl game. So basically, in the last 4 games of the season where you don't burn Walker White's red shirt, why don't you give him a try in a game or two?
I'd just say maybe the bowl game, but nah, I think this
we're not. Well, that's what I just
said.
Yeah,
yep. That's the case then. Nah, Walker White won't see the field.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe the next to last game of the season where hopefully we can win that one. Who is it? Lose it, La Monroe or lose it, whoever it is.
Yeah, La Monroe.
Yep.
Okay. Well, but then there is spring practice and everything, and so. But it's a big commitment, and you guys are right. It's not December yet. Penn's not on the paper yet, so long way to go in recruiting. We saw what happened to the Florida class last year. I mean, they were number 4 to go about the same time this year, and they lost 4 or 5 guys, and I actually Freeze and Auburn got 2 of them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I'll give them credit. I mean, they've been going after Deuce Knight pretty hard. They've been putting the full court press on him for a while now. So it's good to see that pay off for sure.
Yeah, the word I heard last night, Conrad, was that he's been a silent commitment for about 2 weeks now, and Freeze and them finally said, "Look, kid, please just go ahead and announce my fan base needs some good news." Okay, I really think that's what happened because he's recruiting other people for him, and hopefully the next big fish we get is that 5-star offensive lineman. I think his name's Andrew Babaloa from Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
It's between us and Michigan for him, and then you got a really good running back supposed to announce between us and Georgia on Saturday in the Chroma kid from Mississippi. So I mean, hey, me speaking as an Auburn fan, we needed this news, and I'm glad it happened. But fellas, thank you for what you do as always, and talk to you soon.
All right, buddy. We appreciate you, man. Yeah, I just think that if it's great if the players get there, but you have to see the results on the field. And I think that's the biggest thing. And that's my biggest, I guess you say, hang up with Auburn. It's, yeah, you have the talent that's there, but you got to win. You have to win. Because if you don't, you're going to end up falling in the same boat that Jimbo Fisher was when he was at Texas A&M. It's, you got all this talent that you can just throw a rock at and go get. But if you go out there and go 5-7 with the best recruiting class money could buy, it's kind of stinks.
About to say, we're going to find out how much a lot of these kids really love Auburn and Hugh Freeze. And, based on everything that Hugh Freeze has said, he seems to feel like there's a good amount of buy-in from a lot of these guys. And, I some of them will stick around, but, who's to know what it's going to look like this offseason? I don't think it's going to, I'm not saying that I think a bunch of players are just going to go and run and leave Auburn, but, I think that is something that you have to think about is, how long do these kids want to wait before they feel like,
right.
They're able to actually go out and compete, not only to, go and win 8 football games in a year, but you want to compete to try to be that first team from Auburn that makes the college football playoff. And so, yeah, it's going to be, I think that Auburn is playing for a lot of things the rest of the way outside of a bowl game. Just in, you need to put a product on the field that instills confidence not only in the fan base, but in recruits, makes you attractive for guys in the portal, and you need to be able to show, at the very least, progress from this point in the season to the end of the season so that we can hype ourselves up again next year and potentially be disappointed. We'll see.
We shall see. 205-834-9450. We continue with your calls, your text messages. Also take a look at some of the games this weekend. Who should be on upset alert in college football, especially here in the SEC? How about Ole Miss taking that trip up to Columbia, South Carolina, and take on the Gamecocks, especially after losing to Kentucky? Could this be a get-right game for Ole Miss, or could they let Kentucky beat them twice? We want to hear from you. 205-834-9450. We'll keep the conversation going on the other side. Keep it locked right here on Morning JOX and JOX 94.5. I keep forgetting you're a big Kid Cudi guy. Huge. I just
Oh yeah.
it's kind of hit or miss. Kind of hit or miss.
I feel like if you didn't, I don't know. I feel like he's one of those guys. If you didn't listen to him when you were younger, it's
Right.
probably not gonna jump on that train right now. But he's good, man.
He is.
He's
He
pretty
is.
good.
I don't necessarily dislike him. It's just, a few songs. I'm just like, oh, no, I ain't really feeling that. But no, hey, he's a great artist, though. I will say that. He's got great talent. Very unique. Very unique.
Very unique. Definitely plays into some things that maybe you tried when you were younger.
Of course. Of course. Welcome back in the morning. Jox 94.5, Davey Mitchell, Conrad Van Order, and you as well, our wonderful listeners. We appreciate y'all every single morning. Of course, you can hop on the Jox text line, the phone lines, 205-834-9450. Kind of just discussing this Auburn future, I guess you'd say, with the signing of Deuce Knight, who flipped his commitment from Notre Dame, 5-star quarterback there, lefty, commits to the Auburn Tigers yesterday. And we're kind of just looking at the future for Auburn in this season and also moving forward towards next season, and also taking a look at the games this weekend of who could be on upset alert. We're getting some text messages coming in. Eric from Sneed, he says Ole Miss, Miami, and Nebraska should be on upset alert. As we know, Ole Miss is taking that trip to Columbia, South Carolina, taking on the Gamecocks. And after that Kentucky loss, Ole Miss, man, styles make fights. And Kentucky's front seven, I kind of just I did think I overcompensated for the fact that I just thought Ole Miss and what Lane Kiffin's offense was just boom, like they weren't going to be stopped. Kentucky said, "Nah, we got this. Like we if y'all want this is what comes with it." And they were physical. They were the more physical team at every front. They chewed a lot of clock offensively too. And I came away from that game last week with Ole Miss and Kentucky a lot more appreciative of what Brock Vandagriff brings to Kentucky right now. And I said that he's somewhere in the middle between what Will Levis was and Devin Leary, where, okay, he may not have the just straight up talent that Will Levis, hear me out when I say it, talent that he has as far as arm strength, but he isn't as loose with the football as Devin Leary was.
Mm-hmm.
And he's somewhere in that middle ground. And he earned a lot of respect from me last week when they beat up on Ole Miss, and he made some great throws. He showed that he could run the ball, and they legit were running him in the middle. It wasn't like a speed sweep or anything. It was they're calling quarterback power with Brock Vandagriff. I was like, okay, all right, Mark. I was unfamiliar with the game. Like, you want this to be a dog fight, and they took it to Ole Miss.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if you believe in the transitive property, then you're taking South Carolina.
Yeah.
In this matchup, I'm just saying.
They're only a 9-point favorite. Ole Miss is only a 9-point favorite.
All kidding aside, well, so here's the problem with this game now is, because we get these injury, whatever, their availability reports.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, that's the correct term for them. But we get those every week now before these SEC matchups, and the Norris Sellers and Rocket Sanders are both questionable. So, obviously, that is a major factor in this game where if both of those guys are available, I think the game could be fairly interesting. Now, it's also possible that you get a pissed off Ole Miss team that's looking to open up a can of whoop ass on somebody,
Yeah.
and they can go drop 50 on South Carolina. That's a possibility, but yeah, I mean, if Sellers and Rocket Sanders are out, that's just going to be tough for Robbie Ashford for that offense. But this is a tough game if you're Ole Miss because I mean, I know it's, again, coming into the season, you didn't think twice about this one for Ole Miss, but I mean, it's a must-win game, right? Because if you lose this game, I don't care if you beat Georgia, you're probably not making the college football playoff if you have losses to Kentucky and South Carolina. So you have to win this game. And South Carolina, I mean, not saying they're one of the 6 or 7 best teams in the conference, but I think they've impressed me at least with how good and how competitive they've been. Because I mean, they probably should have a win over LSU as well. So this is it's not going to be an easy one for Lane Kiffin. And I mean, look, Lane likes to lane. So when the pressure heats up, we'll see.
Yeah, we shall.
We'll see.
We got some text messages kind of referring to the Auburn situation. And Kirby texted in. He says, Auburn is a very young team. You can't judge Hugh Freeze's performance because of These players have only played 5 games in their career. See, that's where I kind of have the like in the league course, not so fast, my friends, because to me, the way college football is, you don't have to be young. You can go to the transfer portal and get guys that have played a good amount of ball. Not necessarily saying you hang your hat on that, but it's for the expectations that Auburn has. We can't use the excuse that they're young, because they're young in some areas, but overall, a lot of these guys have played a lot of football. Because again, Peyton Thorne, he's played a ton of football, and yet he's still kind of inconsistent. And I think that, yes, you could say the receivers are young. They got a lot of development to do. And a lot of Cam Coleman, to me, for everything that we hyped him up to be, and he does make the spectaculars, but he misses the routines.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I have an issue of, it doesn't matter what year you are as a football player. You should never drop a curl route. It's an 8-yard throw. Peyton hits you right in the hands, and you drop it. That's not a Peyton Thorne issue. That's on the receivers. I mean, his tight ends have messed up a lot. The offensive line has been inconsistent, and those guys, I mean, a couple of those guys are old upperclassmen. So I just think that I get it, but also, say if they don't necessarily, quote unquote, develop how they're supposed to, how many more years away can we say that, oh yeah, Hugh's going to figure it out. He's going to figure it out before it's too late. So
Yeah,
you just got to kind of tread lightly. Like, you just kind of have to just take it for what it is. And it's such boom or bust, because when I do look at this Auburn team, there's no reason why Auburn should be 2-3 right now. And that's kind of my biggest issue with it, is with all the talent moving forward, you shouldn't be in this position. And again, it goes to turning the ball over, giving up big plays. Like, there's no recipe to fix getting beat third and 19. It should never happen. It should not happen. So I just think that collectively, Auburn's got some things to work out. And again, they're facing the Georgia team this weekend, where you brought up the point. And statistically, they should be able to hang into the ball game. But then you kind of look at what Vegas is telling you, that Georgia's a 24-point favorite. It's, okay, how big of a gap is there?
I mean, yeah, because, I mean, again, you look at the stats, and a lot of them favor Auburn except for one. And at the end of the day, I mean, turnovers are one of the biggest factors in a football game. Again, I mean, it's one of those cliche things, but I mean, I feel like it's brought up in almost every game that we break down. Is it's all right, this is how the game's going to play out, but there's always that one factor of, okay, well, if the turnover battle gets lopsided, then you can throw everything that we've said about this game out the door, because it doesn't matter at that point, right? If you're giving the other team opportunities, and multiple opportunities in a game, to take the ball away from you, and you're not able to go and finish drives, and even if it's, field goals you're missing out on, that's, that's all it takes a lot of the time. But I am really, my takeaway from that is, I'm just glad that Kirby could step away from game prep this week to listen in and text us this morning. I don't know if that's tampering, him chiming in about Auburn on game week or not, but it's nice of him to get up early and listen.
Right. Mason takes in and says, so much Auburn hate on this show. Is this an Auburn hate show? No, it's not. We actually want Auburn to be better. It's not our fault. See, that's where I have an issue. It's our fault because we're talking about it. Are we not watching the same games? Are we not watching the same teams? Like, I understand you may be an Auburn fan, but bro, we're just talking about it. That's it. That's all it is. But don't you want this team to be better? We want Auburn to win. Think about it. Think about how me and Conrad were up here every morning of like, hey, if Peyton Thorne takes that Brady Cook jump, we are going to be the first ones to say, you know what? We were dead wrong. And now to start the season through 5 games, Auburn's 2-3. That's not a Damian and Conrad problem. It ain't our fault.
How many Auburn fans you hear calling up here, pounding their chest, talking about how good the football team is?
And that's what I'm saying.
Zero.
Yeah, exactly.
Zero. If you don't like, I understand we all get defensive about our teams and we feel very passionately about them, but if you're not willing to, I mean, you have to have the self-awareness to understand that criticism is necessary, and that's just part of it. It's the same thing. If Alabama was 2-3 right now, I can promise you we would be burning Tuscaloosa to the ground every morning here if Alabama was 2-3. That's the way it goes. Yep. Auburn be 5-0. We'll have a different conversation, but you're not. You're 2-3, and you're continuing to disappoint, and that's how the fan base feels. So that's what we're going to talk about until there's other positive things to talk about.
Absolutely. And I mean, you want to talk about being a young team. We just saw what Ryan Williams did. He's only played 4 games in his career. Xavier Smith has only played 4 games in his career. Jalen Mbakwe has only played 4 games in his career. They're going out there making plays. So What did Taylor Swift say? Don't blame me. 205-834-9450. We'll keep the conversation going on the other side. Keep it locked right here on Morning Jocks and Jocks 94.5. .653 here on Morning Jocks, Jocks 94.5. Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order. Let's go to the phone lines real quick. Let's bring in our buddy Greg, who's been on hold patiently through these breaks. What's going on this morning, Greg?
Hey, good morning, guys. I think what's happened this year is simply regression. And one of the things that strikes me about Auburn in the last decade or so is the lack of player development that you touched on earlier, the unwillingness to change systems if what you have isn't working. If you don't have the guys to do what you want to do, then either you get new guys or you change what you do. Coach Saban did that when you brought in Lane Kiffin. And so I think that the regression that we're seeing, you would have expected in year one at Auburn when he had to clean house and had, leftovers from Brian Harsin. And so this year, if you finish 3-9, there's nothing to hang your hat on. If you get the 4 and 5 stars in, it means nothing if you can't develop them and get them to the next level. And most of those kids want to go to the NFL.
Yeah. I don't know, man. How many more years can we say they need to develop? And again, I think there's a lot of pressure on the other side too, because they got Alabama in the same state.
And to be fair, a lot of the young guys for Auburn, like that we heard about, they've played and they have played well at times.
Yeah.
So it's not like, they missed on all these recruits. It's just
you got to win the games.
And you got to find the quarterback.
Simple as that. Keep it locked. McElroy and Cubic in the morning. They're next.